You actually defended, you told me the story when you first started with the ACLU, Paul Cameron, who we had to, or you represented him. I don't know if defended is the right word. He was on
Certainly
the show.
not the content of anything he said.
Right. He was on the show. One of the most controversial interviews that we've done, one of the most popular interviews. He's, of course, the very anti-gay sex researcher, and I use the term researcher very loosely.
Right. My understanding was he was a defrocked psychologist, although apparently there's a long story.
Yeah, he claims he left the APA before they kicked him out, but the APA says people can't do that. Once we start investigating them, they can't just leave, you know. What was that like? I know you never personally met the guy, right?
I didn't. I talked to him on the phone because I really thought it was my obligation to know what he was going to say, and was he really going to say these absolutely horrifying things that were attributed to him. And the answer to that, yes, he was absolutely going to say that, and he was absolutely going to express his beliefs on those subjects.
He was coming to the University of Massachusetts.
He was invited to UMass by the Young Republican Club and Students for America.
Yeah.
There's strong cross-fertilization between those two organizations. This is over 20 years ago now.
Yeah.
And they wanted to bring Paul Cameron on the campus during Gay Pride Week.
Right.
And there was a big fight about that, and the campus said, UMass took the position that he can come, but only if he pays for his own security. That, of course, set off all sorts of alarm bells at the ACLU, because the last time the University of Massachusetts Amherst tried to do that was when the speaker was Angela Davis. So that's just not a good reason to keep a person off the university campus. In response, the campus had the largest gay rights demonstration in the history of Western Massachusetts. There were teach-ins, there were plants in his speech, there was an enormous campus response. He engendered the greatest gay rights demonstration, as I said, in the history of Western Massachusetts, which led to I think, a good paradigm to show how good speech and righteous speech can defeat horrible speech and hate speech, which of course is the ACLU's position.
When you have to, I'm guessing you didn't have the choice as to whether to represent him or not, right? I mean, the ACLU, if someone calls, if it's a free speech issue, you get involved. It wasn't your choice.
Well, I think it was an important issue to say that the University of Massachusetts cannot keep someone off its campus because of the content of the speech, because that's been tried with all sorts of individuals whom I think most of your listeners would say, yes, absolutely, that person gets on. But if the university can say, no, Angela Davis can't come on today, and Paul Cameron can't come on tomorrow, and this person who's controversial can't come on the next day, then what kind of university do we have?
Well, this brings up an issue that has happened, that's come up on our show many times, and it happened when we had racist Senate candidate Glenn Miller on recently, which is that he is very racist, and he said, I'm a Jew liar, and something I said was very kike-alike, so on and so forth. And I don't take it personally. I mean, I think that the guy is not going to win. I think he's nuts. But some people emailed me and said, you should not be giving him airtime, because by giving him airtime, you are somehow putting him up on a platform and allowing him to speak. I think that he makes a fool of himself, and I think that giving him airtime is only going to make his case, it's going to make him seem even more outrageous, and he was ridiculed across the internet after the interview. What's your thought on that? I mean, when it comes to free speech and allowing people to speak, I don't have to he has no right to be on my show if I don't want him on, right? I decide who's on, or Lewis does. What's your thought on that, the idea of shutting people up to make their ideas go away?
Well, I think that is inherently self-defeating. I think that it has long been said that sunshine is the best disinfectant. And when you have someone as evil and corrupt and really a promulgator of hate on your show, and you expose them, I think that does much more good for the world than saying these people are lurking under the rocks and talking to people who will hear from them. I mean, to be sure, there's a risk. They come on the show and they convince someone that hatred is good and being anti-Semitic is terrific and hating gay people is a wonderful thing to do.
Right.
I mean, there's some risk. On the other hand, I think you're talented enough, and this show is good enough to show, when you have a hate monger on the show, you show how evil and wrong they are. Good for you. Good for the station, good for people who can make that decision, say, boy, we got to rise up and say, let's stop that. That guy's really bad. That person really is antithetical to everything we believe in. That performs a public service. I think that's a public good.
And the argument that somebody may be convinced to act based on something they hear him say on my show, they may be convinced to act in the same way if they hear me say the opposite and don't like me, right? So to say that an appearance may influence someone to act, we're opening up a whole can of worms, aren't we?
Well, I think you need to say, anytime that anyone has a microphone, someone might be convinced of something that's horrible. That's possible. But the risk of shutting someone down and saying, we won't even listen, we won't expose this person. I mean, if you exposed Adolf Hitler and say, look, here's what he wants to do, a lot of people said, at the time said, well, maybe he's not that bad. Maybe he really won't declare war on the world. Maybe nothing will happen. And in fact, if there had been more to expose, listen, here's what he said in Mein Kampf. He really means it. We really got to stop him. I mean, I think that exposing hatred, exposing homophobia, exposing all the isms that come to infect our body politic, I think exposing that and exposing them to the sunlight and shining a light on it and saying, look at what this person is saying, I think that does a public good. Is there some risk there? Of course. Is it worth that risk? Equally clear.
In the last less than a minute that we have left, this is a tough question. Which of these two issues do you find to be a bigger risk right now to to the country, the Citizens United case or the Arizona immigration law? If you had to pick one, to change, which are you more concerned about? And maybe you wouldn't change either.
Well, this is a pick your poison question.
It is.
But I fear the Arizona law because Citizens United is a complex issue. We don't have time to get into it, but Citizens United is subject to any number of judicial and legislative fixes. The Arizona law has lawmakers in 10 other states saying, let's copy it, let's do it. And if we can take this jingoistic, racist law and enshrine it throughout the country and say, right, it's okay for law enforcement to go after everyone who doesn't look and sound white.
Right.
Goodness gracious, what kind of a country are we becoming?
It's a good question. And we've been speaking with Bill Newman, attorney for the ACLU of Massachusetts. And of course, you can also hear him every week on our show with the ACLU First Amendment Minute. Thanks for coming in.
Hey, great pleasure. Thank you very much, David.
You've been listening to Midweek Politics with Dave Pakman.
Midweek Politics is brought to you in part by Jackson & Connor, classically modern men's apparel in Northampton, Massachusetts on the second floor of Thorne's Marketplace, and by DIF Design, specializing in custom business websites at difdesign.com. To find out more about underwriting Midweek Politics, visit midweekpolitics.com.